All right, we've got a big Senate ratings change that we wanted to bring you. We can throw this up on the screen. So this is from Larry Sabato's Krystal Ball. No relation here. Iowa's Senate race has been moved from toss-up to leans Democratic. Teresa Greenfield now favored to win over Senator Joni Ernst. This comes on the heels of polling showing Greenfield with a consistent somewhere around 4 or 5 point lead. We have one of the most recent polls that we can put up there. This was Insider Advantage, has Greenfield up by about 5 points. Again, it's pretty consistent with what we've been seeing in the polling recently. And Saagar, this was a race that at the beginning of this cycle, people would have put as a real long shot for Democrats. Not only has Iowa moved to the right, or at least we thought Iowa moved to the right, now it's very much in play for Joe Biden as well. And at least 3 out of 4 of the congressional districts are likely to go Democratic too. But this was a state that Democrats were viewing as having moved to the right. Joni Ernst, incumbent senator, relatively popular. And yet, because this state has been uniquely hard hit, not only by coronavirus, but also the trade war has really impacted them. Climate change has really impacted them. Joni Ernst hasn't been a very effective messenger for any kind of an economic populist message. She is really on the rocks here. And the last thing I'll say, why this particular race is so incredibly important is in North Carolina, the Democratic challenger Cal Cunningham has had some trouble. He's had some affairs revealed and some sexting and all of that sort of stuff. It looks like he's still holding on to a lead. But basically, if Democrats win Iowa, they can lose that one against Thom Tillis and still take control of the Senate.
Yeah, that's the important thing to remember about this race. It's a very strange dynamic in Iowa, and I think you're right. I think I mentioned this to you before. Iowa is the one state where I will buy that the trade war actually did hurt Trump, just given how much of their soybean product and so much of their other agricultural product does get sold to China. And I think that the only way you can overcome that is basically the way that Trump did, where he was like, look, it's going to hurt, but we are winning a war. You know, this is about rebalancing America's trade relations. He repurposed some of those tariff dollars, into direct aid to many Iowa farmers and to many people across the Midwest. Now, the problem for Joni Ernst is she hasn't really supported the trade war. So even though she's tied herself to Trump, she doesn't have any sort of populist message, any sort of messaging around what exactly that, we're sticking it to China and tying itself to a larger, broader, more national agenda. So I think that is where some of this comes from. Also, she has not been a major supporter of stimulus. Let's remember, I pressed her here on this show. I was like, are you going to support major economic stimulus? Because farmers are getting, clamored by both the trade war, then what's going on with coronavirus and the recession, and then the meat packing plants, which are a huge part of the Iowa economy, ravaged by coronavirus. A lot of them had to shut down or had limited production. We even almost had meat shortages in this country. Overall, it's like the perfect confluence of events. And I think that in general, what you can see is that this is a bad situation nationally for Republicans. So let's throw that map up there on the screen. You can see from the map just how much of an advantage the Democrats essentially have. And what you can see is that right now, as things stand where they are, as long as Iowa is a lean blue, then you've got 50%, or you got 50 seats for the Democrats, 49 for the Republicans. If North Carolina went to the Democrats, then that would be a 51-49. So that's still a smaller margin than a lot of people think. But, if a couple other races go differently, then we're talking about a large majority. I mean, Georgia had a New York Times poll. Let's throw that up there on the screen. And it is a pretty tight poll in terms of the Senate. You can see Ossoff is basically tied with David Perdue. And then, of course, there's all this runoff craziness between Kelly Loeffler and Doug Collins. It's highly conceivable that if, let's say that Biden outperforms his polls by 2 points, like Trump did in 2016, that Georgia could certainly go blue, both in terms of Joe Biden and in terms of that Senate seat. And that's when we're talking about an actual bloodbath.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a very, very unusual situation because they have both of their Senate seats up this year. And as you point out, if no one gets 50% in November and, less than 2 weeks now, then they go to a runoff. So what you saw in that Georgia poll from New York Times is Biden and Trump totally dead even. This is exactly like the result from the last poll that they did out of Georgia. It's an interesting dynamic because what is giving Biden a shot is he's winning more white voters, especially white college-educated voters. And what is keeping Trump in the game is gains among non-white voters. And those trends kind of trickle down the ballot. So those two Senate races have both moved towards Democrats at this point. And even the one with Kelly Loeffler and Doug Collins, where people have kind of been feeling like, okay, Warnock, the Democrat, we can put the polling back up on the screen so people can see these names. Like, he's up just because you have this split dynamic between Republicans. But actually, the polling and the analysis that I've seen says that no, they actually really have a chance, even after you have this runoff dynamic of Warnock versus either Loeffler or Collins. Warnock still very much has a shot. You can see that Warnock +4 against both Collins, and that should be Loeffler. So Democrats have a real shot to pick up both of the Senate seats in Georgia. Now, why does all of this matter so much? Okay, think about it. Okay, so where things stand now, if Democrats win all of the seats that are lean D or likely D or safety, they get 50 votes. Republicans are at 49. You've got one toss-up, that's North Carolina. Let's even say that Republicans win that one toss-up. If Joe Biden wins, then Kamala Harris becomes the tiebreaker in the Senate. The thing is, if the margin is that thin and narrow, who becomes super, super powerful in terms of getting anything done in the Senate? People like Joe Manchin. Okay?
That's right.
Very conservative Democrat, very corporate Democrat. And so you basically have to then get Joe Manchin's approval on every single thing that Democrats try to do in the next administration. If you pick up a few other of these seats, if you also win North Carolina, if you can win a seat or two in Georgia, if you could pick one up somewhere else, the Kansas race is actually a little closer than people thought that it might be. If you can pick up one or two of those seats, then you have some more wiggle room and you don't have to rely on friggin' Joe Manchin to get every last thing through a Democratic Senate. So that's why the landscape and the margin here is really important to keep an eye on.
No, that's right. So Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin will be king and queen of the U.S. Senate if there's only a 51-49. But if there's 53, then you can lose a couple of votes, kind of the way that Republicans have it right now. So a lot riding on these Senate seats for a potential Joe Biden administration.
Absolutely. All right, tomorrow on Rising, friend of the show, Washington Post economics reporter Jeffrey Stein. He's going to unpack the latest on stimulus negotiations. Also, friend of the show, Matt Taibbi, is going to be here with his latest reporting. We are going to preview tomorrow night's debate, the last debate of the presidential cycle. I really kind of can't believe it. Remember, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our videos. Also, don't forget to like and share as well. Make sure to watch our election night coverage. That is going to be on Tuesday, November 3rd. We're going to start at 9 p.m. and go till whenever. We're going to have the latest results, analysis from friends of the show, reporters, coverage for the Hill, battleground reporters, all of that stuff. You do not want to miss it. Have a great day, everybody. Saagar, feel better. Hopefully we'll have you back here tomorrow.
Thank you.
We'll see everybody soon.
See you guys.